Throughout the history of video games, shoot 'em ups have become a dime a dozen, and that's not a bad thing. No matter what console you collect for, grew up with, or just casually play from time to time, chances are you probably owned a few of them and play them to death. No matter what generation of gaming you're into, coming across a good shoot 'em up is about as common as seeing a girl filming her ass at a gym in your TikTok and Instagram reels. Are those pants painted on? Good lord! Dating all the way back to the Atari 2600. Yeah, the Atari 2600. You had your fixed shooters like Space Invaders, your early 3D on-rail shooters like Star Fox and Panzer Dragoon, your non-stop action run-and-gun games like Contra and the Avengers of Batman and Robin, which is almost impossible to beat, vertical and horizontal shooters. I can go on and on and on. But then there's Desert Strike. This isn't just any ordinary shoot 'em up. No. This is the Thinking Man shooter, a classic strategic isometric shoot 'em up starring the Boeing AH-64 Apache helicopter. God damn, what an epic intro song. Gotta love that distinct Sega Genesis heavy metal twang sound. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about that FM sound chip on the Sega Genesis that just hits right with certain tunes. But with that said, let's get into it. Desert Strike is not your standard shooter, and that's what I love about it. This game, along with its amazing sequels, which I'll talk about later, was, and still is to this day, one of my favorite Sega Genesis games of all time. Now, I know I'm not alone on this because this game was huge back in the day. Like Elizabeth Hurley in a bikini, this game has aged magnificently and still looks amazing. No joke, while capturing the gameplay footage, I actually played through the entire game and died just at the very end on the last mission. This game never gets old. Now you can tell right away just by looking at the gameplay footage that this is a much slower paced shooter than what you would normally experience. Usually it's non-stop action with frantic gameplay that requires quick reflexes and a photographic memory, but this is not the case, my man. This is like playing blitz chess with a helicopter. I use that analogy because in this game, you need to strategically plan your attacks regarding your approach on the upcoming mission, all while competing against a timer. Now look, there's technically not a timer, but these genius developers disguise the timer as your gas meter. And let me tell you, man, this thing guzzles gas like your typical Boeing aircraft. I remember the first time popping this game in, I had no idea what to expect. I skipped the option scene and jumped right into the game, pretty much like what any normal kid would do back in the day, and I was immediately blown away by the graphics. God damn, look at this. The helicopter looks so amazing on screen, and it controlled perfectly. And of course, ironically, I was immediately blown out of the air because I flew directly into the danger zone and got shot down faster than me speaking to a hot babe at a chess tournament.
So, I was thinking maybe after this game we could,
It was then that I decided to restart the game and try a slower approach. After lifting off, I pressed start and yeah, that's when I finally realized that this wasn't going to be some high-scoring arcade affair like Chopper Command on the Atari 2600. Speaking of which, am I crazy or does the bullet sound effect sound exactly the same? Anyways, look at this map screen when you press start. Jesus Christ, look how much there is to read. It's like Gandalf reading the scrolls in the library at Minas Tirith. Multiple missions on each level, locations of ammo, gas tanks, POWs, descriptions of enemies and their locations. Yeah, I knew right away this game was going to be something special, something way more in depth. The game takes place on an open map through an isometric view as you control your helicopter, which, like I said before, controls amazingly. This is hands down the most underrated part of the game because had the developers screwed this up, it would have been disastrous. As I said before, I'll always take great controls over amazing graphics any day of the week, yet this game manages to do both for a 16-bit game. But going back to our option setting, you actually have 3 settings when it comes to controlling your helicopter, with momentum, from cockpit, from above. For me, I always picked with momentum because it actually felt like I was flying a helicopter. All the footage you see in this video will be momentum, which gives it that extra lag when attempting to turn or stop. Now, the other 2 options are pretty much for beginners. From above controls like a compass on the map, and from the cockpit is similar to with momentum, but without having to compensate for the lag or turning. Even the manual says to pick with momentum to get the full experience, so don't be a bitch. And of course, you can choose your co-pilot based on your style of play. My pick was always Xavier Thomas, aka X-Man. Great nod to Charles Xavier from my X-Men. I guess we should get the obvious out of the way. The plot is a complete ripoff of the Gulf War. I mean, a complete ripoff. This dude right here is clearly Saddam Hussein, who's, what's his name? General Kabasi? Whatever. He's invading the neighboring country just like Iraq did in the Gulf War. So this scumbag starts building military bases with weapons, including facilities for building nuclear bombs, and it's up to you to wipe them out. Funny enough, some critics actually criticized this game's subject matter and called it poor taste due to the proximity of its release of the recently ended Gulf War. Oh god, people just fucking suck. I'm sorry, man. Like, it's a video game. Shut the hell up and take it for face value. Typical early 90s, man. Regardless, like most 8 and 16-bit action games, I never really cared for these dull, highly predictable plotlines in these games. If it wasn't an RPG, I tended to not care. But like I said earlier, each level has specific missions that involves blowing up shit like oil fields, command posts, rescuing hostages, capturing enemy personnel, etc. All of this is shown on the battle map, and trust me, you'll be constantly pressing the start button to see the location of the enemies, as well as the locations of the fuel, ammo, armor crates, just to maximize your resources efficiently. Regarding the missions, I guess technically you can go in any order, but I always found the most success by doing them in numeric order. If I'm going to give one piece of advice, wipe out those radar sites as soon as possible. These things make the enemies have increased firing range and they can detect you from further away. And trust me, they will crush you like origami under a history textbook with that long ass range. As you progress to the later levels, these missions will become way more difficult as well as hidden on the maps until you progress further on. The thing that I love about this game is the strategy aspect. I mean, look, this isn't StarCraft at the professional level here, but it does involve some thinking. You're armed with 3 weapons, your standard machine gun, which is great for shooting at lone soldiers or blowing up buildings in a safe zone to conserve ammo, and you got the more powerful Hydra rockets, which are great for taking out the medium-sized weapons like the AAA anti-aircraft weapons, and of course, your deadly Hellfire missiles, which are absolutely necessary to take out the more powerful artillery, like these tanks who are capable of shooting you down with only a few shots. Yep, that's right, my man. On top of conserving your ammo and your gas, you gotta keep an eye on your armor. Just a few hits from these tanks, and you'll be tiptoeing around like a priest at an orphanage at 3 a.m. The only way to get back your armor is by finding random armor crates or by airlifting POWs to a landing zone. This icon right here shows how many POWs you have in your helicopter, as well as what's currently on your chin right now. And getting back to the fuel, aka your timer, this is hands down the most frustrating aspect of the game. Just when you think you're cruising towards victory and flying high to the next mission, you hear that beep. Ah shit, gotta find a fuel drum. And you better pray to God that there's one nearby. So choose which fuel drum you pick up during the course of the level, because if you're low and the closest one is across the map, yeah man. And that's the name of the game, outmaneuvering enemy fire while choosing the appropriate weapon for each situation to conserve your ammo, all while keeping an eye on your armor and gas. It's an epic 16-bit game. If I really wanted to, I could make this video 30 minutes longer with strategy tips, secret areas, etc., but this is the type of game that needs to be experienced and enjoyed. The type of game where you can explore and have a blast doing it. Now, is this game perfect? Of course not. Some people felt that this game was too hard, which, yeah, don't get me wrong, the game is no walk in the park, but what shooter isn't? Besides, this game is definitely beatable after you put some time into it, and it's satisfying when you finally do. I also heard that the biggest flaw of this game is the constant need to press the start button to view the battle map to check your resources and the location of the enemies, but for me, it never felt like it affected the game overall. It's kind of like Zelda: A Link to the Past. Like, now, how many times did you have to look at the map to guide yourself or change your item? It's the same thing, pretty much. Overall, Desert Strike is easily one of the best games on the Sega Genesis, and on the Super Nintendo too. With any great game came sequels, and man, they were just as good, if not better. The second one in the 16-bit trilogy, Jungle Strike, is usually considered the best, with the third, Urban Strike, being considered the easiest, but it's also still solid. For me, this is like the original Star Wars trilogy. The first one was groundbreaking and set the tone for the series, the second one was the true masterpiece that perfected the formula, and the third one was a solid entry that played it safe to end the series. Two more entries were later released on the PS1 called Soviet Strike and Nuclear Strike. I think one was also released on the Sega Saturn, I kind of forget, but I've actually never played them before and it's on my bucket list. If you played this game back in the day, I hope this video served as a reminder to go back to your parents' house and dust this bad boy off and play it again. And if you never played it before, goddamn, you are missing out. It's a classic example of an older game that's still worth playing today. It's a true Sega Genesis masterpiece.